This is a message for the Pope. I'm assuming you won't see this, but just in case you do. My name is Erin. I'm Catholic, so you are technically my leader. And yes, I may use the odd swear word, and I haven't been to church in a fair while, but on the whole, I'd like to think I'm a fairly good person. We need to talk. Twice now, recently, you've made global headlines regarding the situation in the Middle East, more specifically, the Israel-Hamas war. And so you should. You're the Pope. Your voice matters, and you must always stand up loudly for humanity. But I need to let you know that right now, your voice isn't helping. In fact, I believe it is to the detriment of us all, particularly those you say you care about. And I believe you do. Let me explain. You lament the deaths of children in Gaza, describing their suffering as cruel. And it is. You are absolutely spot on. It is utterly devastating. The issue I have is you seemingly lay the blame, the responsibility for this cruelty solely at the feet of Israel, which, and I say this, I promise you with the utmost respect, you are wrong. In a forthcoming book, you are quoted as saying some international experts believe that what is happening in Gaza has the characteristics of a genocide. I'm not sure to whom you refer, but if they are affiliated with the ICC or the United Nations, then say no more. Let me make this point really clear before I go on, because this matters. Israel is not perfect. No country is. Every single nation involved in war will make mistakes. And some individuals, whether they be in command or troops on the ground, will do the wrong thing. History has shown us that is a certainty, no matter how justified or noble the cause may be. But the difference between them, the democratic nation, and Hamas, the terrorists, is those from Israel who do the wrong thing will be held to account. They will pay a heavy price, and so they should, just like others have before them. And for the record, again, because it matters, a number of international and independent experts have said the complete opposite regarding this allegation of genocide. In fact, many have rubbished it entirely. They say Israel goes to extensive lengths to minimise civilian casualties against an enemy who intentionally does the complete opposite. And not just to their opposition, but to their own people. Hamas use their own children as human shields, placing them in harm's way in a sadistic attempt to demonise their enemy and win the global PR battle. The US administration, and believe you me, they've not exactly been staunch allies of Israel over the past 15 months. In fact, quite the opposite at times. Even they have said, based on their independent studies, that they've not identified a case of Israel targeting civilians. Former NATO and American generals have observed their operations as legal in accordance with international law. You're a man of faith. Wouldn't you sooner put yours in the procedures and decision-making process of a democratic nation over the rantings, ravings, and stated genocidal desires of a terror organisation that shows no regard for human life, Palestinian or Israeli, Jewish or Muslim, and, Your Holiness, Christian too? More on that later. But even if I can't convince you of this, I have good news. What you appear to want, an end to the cruelty suffered by children in Gaza, something I also feel incredibly strongly about, well, that can actually happen immediately, regardless of whom you apportion the blame for it to. It's actually bizarrely quite simple. The terrorists just need to release the remaining hostages and lay down their arms. Surrender. That will end the war today. Israel isn't in Gaza for revenge. Mind you, against a terrorist, they'd have a pretty good case. You see, their people are still being held hostage there. And those who kidnapped them and murdered over 1,000 others have promised very publicly to do the same thing over and over and over again. You may recall on October 7 last year, there was a massacre that redefined evil in the modern era, perpetrated by terrorists who tortured and killed innocents, including many children. Babies were also taken hostage and remain captive hundreds of days later. They matter too, Your Holiness, as do all the Jewish children who were murdered. They matter as much as the children of Gaza. They all matter equally. No child in the Middle East will ever have peace whilst terrorism is allowed to flourish there, not one of them. The people of Israel cannot allow Hamas to exist, to rebuild and rearm. Again, their mission statement is to kill Jews and destroy Israel. It's not subtle. They don't hide it, they don't disguise it, and they show it very clearly by their actions. If you disagree, and that is your right, I'd love to know what you suggest Israel should do. What you would say to those who lost parents and children in the largest killing spree against Jews since the Holocaust. Would you tell them to just leave their people in captivity with terrorists and, like sitting ducks, wait for the next attack? An attack Hamas has promised will come again and again and again? What would you do? How can any nation say to its people, we won't fight for your loved one's return and we won't destroy the very real, constant threat to you and your children's lives? What can they do? There will be differences of opinion over how to wage this war, but Israel has no choice but to fight it. The Western world is not immune to the evil we witnessed on October 7. That's not a prediction, by the way, or a guess. We are already seeing elements of it in Europe and America, Canada and Australia. And the longer we accept what occurred, sit idly by, and in some cases inexplicably defend it, the more widespread the carnage will become. What you say and do matters. You are respected and revered around the world, and rightly so. I implore you to help end the cruelty you speak of, suffered by children in Gaza. Please use your formidable voice and platform to put pressure on the terrorists, those actually responsible for their, yes, heartbreaking pain. I haven't met anyone yet who doesn't feel sick to the stomach at the horror being endured by so many in the Middle East right now. There is a way to end the suffering, all the suffering right now. And you have immense power and privilege to play a major role. Heap pressure on Hamas, on terrorism, on those who fund it. It's not just kids in Gaza and Israel who suffer because of this Islamic extremism. Christians are dying daily, your people, in Nigeria, Pakistan, Mali, Egypt, Cameroon, in Syria right now. Videos are being shared online of the slaughter of innocents, including Christians, who are being specifically targeted only for their faith. I could go on and on. It's devastating. Muslim children are victims of this terror almost more than anyone else. I fight for them as much as for anyone else. So I beg you again, use every iota of the considerable power you have to help end this war. Fight to bring the hostages home and repeatedly condemn the terrorists who stole them. It would be the greatest light you could bring to the world. For Israel, yes. For the children of Gaza, absolutely. For all who value life, many of whom are understandably starting to lose hope. This is not just a moral mission, but a sacred one. Your Holiness, it's time. It's time to help bring them home and end this war for the sake of all children around the world and for the sake of humanity.